Hey, with us now, we've got the former CIA Director John Brennan with us. He's a senior national security and intel analyst for NBC News. Thank you so much for being with us. Yesterday, you had suggested, Mr. Brennan, that loyal Republicans, that patriotic Republicans speak out. Some actually did begin to speak out in my former party, not as many as I would have liked, but it seems that yesterday was a moment that triggered many to finally say the president had gone too far. What do you believe in the best interest not only of America's intel agencies, but also in the best interest of America's national security did those patriotic Republicans need to do today on the Hill?
Well, I think there's a big question, first of all, in terms of those who are on Mr. Trump's national security team, whether they can continue to serve in good conscience an individual who basically betrayed his nation. But then the legislators on the Hill, especially the Republicans, need to ask themselves what they should do in order to try to protect and preserve this country's liberties and freedoms, despite having Mr. Trump in the Oval Office. And so I think the outcry needs to be strong, it needs to endure, and they need to then also take action, whether it's a censure or whether or not they are going to decide that this is not the Republican Party that they once knew, that they need to step away from it, like you did, that this is not what Ronald Reagan said or meant when he said to Mr. Gorbachev, bring down that wall. And I heard the words that were just said in the film clip about simple-minded appeasement is folly. And that certainly is true. And so those Republicans on the Hill need to do more than just speak out and criticize. They need to act. They need to put pressure on Mr. Trump, and they need to send a clear signal that this is intolerable, and they are going to act upon it.
Mr. Director, obviously Dan Coats yesterday moved quickly and honorably to stand up for the men and the women who have given their entire adult lives to America's intel agency, also the men and women in uniform that helped in uncovering the interference in America's democratic process in 2016. Would you recommend, do you believe it's actually necessary for other members of Donald Trump's foreign policy team and intel community, like Mike Pompeo, like the Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, to come out today with similar statements supporting and defending the men and women who sacrifice everything often in defending this country?
Well, good on Dan Coats to stand up for the women and men of the intelligence community. And those who are going to be silent in this administration are complicit. And so they need to be able to speak out very strongly. But what Mr. Trump did yesterday was to betray the women and men of the FBI, the CIA, NSA, and others, and to betray the American public. And that's why I use the term that this is nothing short of treasonous, because it is a betrayal of the nation. He is giving aid and comfort to the enemy, and it needs to stop. And Mr. Trump needs to understand that there are going to be consequences for him, too. And I do hope that those who voted for Mr. Trump, in good conscience, are going to see that he is leading us down a very dangerous path. And it is a dangerous path. And what we don't want is for Mr. Putin to walk away from that meeting thinking that he can get away now with whatever he wants. And I still shake my head trying to understand what was discussed during the 2-hour one-on-one. And what was discussed between the two sides in their bilateral meeting. We only saw what Mr. Trump said during the press conference. I can't even imagine what he said behind closed doors. I can't imagine what he said to Mr. Putin directly. I am very concerned about what type of impact it might have on our intelligence community and on this country.